Hi, welcome to Starting Student Websites with Students. This is the video that I'm going to make to show you as a teacher the process that I go through when I set up a student website with a new group of students. I can do it in usually a period. I could do it faster if I don't take as much time to kind of help them add content to the website, but I always like to do that right from the start. Of course, you could use any web site platform. In this case, I'm going to use Google Sites because integrated into Google Workspace, and that's what my district uses. But you could use, any website building platform would be fine. They would all function slightly differently. But I'm going to take you through the steps that I would go through with students to get them going with student websites using Google Sites. The first thing that you'll need to do is just go to Google Sites. You can do that either by searching Google for Google Sites or by clicking on the waffle or the 9 dots and then going to Sites, SITES, for the website building platform. So first, you're going to click on blank site. There are these other sites here, but I like to start from a blank site. That way students have to build their own. There is a way for students to copy a template, but I actually don't like doing that if I can help it, because when you're creating the site with students, it's actually good for them to learn how to use the site. So I like to have them build them from scratch, and it's not too difficult for most students. If it's with tier 3 students, you would want to go ahead and do that. And I'll make another video for how you actually can make and share a template with students, so you can watch that later. So with that said, I click on blank site. It takes a couple seconds or can take a little bit longer depending on your internet speed. But once your site loads up, you'll see that this is the editing platform for Google Sites. The main part of the page is your site. And then on the right-hand side, you've got all sorts of tools that you can do over here to either add things to this one page, add more pages, or change how your site looks. So with students, I have them get to Google Sites, and then the first thing that I have them do, just like I would have you do, is just put in your name right here at the top. And then also you're going to want to add that up here in the left-hand side. Basically, this is sort of like a title. It helps you find your site later when you're searching in your Drive. And if you're a teacher and you have lots of sites, you can search for the student name. It's sort of like leaving that blank would be like leaving a document blank. It's harder to find, so it's better if you put your name up there. The next thing that I have students do is I'll usually have them start to personalize this page before we build any other pages. So what you can do is, instead of having this boring gray background, you can have the students go to image over here. Notice it pops up when I hover. And then you can do a couple of different things. You can either upload an image or you can select one. In the beginning, I usually just have students select an image. It's a lot easier. There's the gallery here, so you can find one of these. They really want to personalize it more. They can search Google Images and find an image of their school, of something they like, a mountain, whatever it is. Anything is fine as long as it represents them and it's school appropriate. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and select, I don't know, I'll select the stars. Doesn't really matter for now. It's just about personalizing it. And of course, you can change it another time too if you don't like that. So in this case, I've got the image. You can do a couple of different things. So you can change the header type to, title only. It's on our banner already to large banner. So I'll click on that, or just a cover so it's even more. I typically like to leave it on banner though, at least in the beginning. For the main page. The next thing that I'll have students do is I want to engage them in learning how to add content to their page. So I'll start by just showing them the content blocks over here. Really easy to use. It creates a template for them to fill in the blanks. Usually I'll have them click on either 2 or 3 pictures is sort of what it looks like. And you can see there's 3 spots when I click on this for me to add content. So what am I going to add? Well, I always like to have students add information about themselves. So I'll usually start by doing something like hobbies. It can be music. Oftentimes students like to add music, or it can be music. It can be TV shows. It can be hikes, clubs, sports, anything. That's the great thing about student websites, is that it can be personalized to the student. They can put whatever it is that they like and they engage in on their student website. Later on, you'll transition the homepage from being about them to something else. But for now, this is the best way to have them start. You just have them think of a couple categories, some information they want to share with you, almost like if you were just sitting down and have a conversation where you're introducing yourself to them and they're introducing themselves to you. What would they put? What would you tell them? What they put? So in my case, like I'm an adult with 2 kids, I would probably include my family. They don't have to, right? It's about what they want to share and represent. So they'd put a title, and then they can add some information about that. So in this case, it's hobbies. So I actually might just make a list of my hobbies, right? So what do I like to do? I like to read. I like to, work out or exercise. I like to hike. And of course, I like to spend time with my kids. It also could be a narrative description or some short sentence or two about that hobby. Either way is fine. The point is just to get them engaged with adding content, sharing information about themselves. Eventually, we'll teach students how to add their own pictures and video that they make, but for now, in the beginning, I typically don't have them do that. So anywhere that you see a plus mark, you can add, if you click on it, an image. It's usually the easiest thing to do, or a YouTube video. So I usually kind of like to get them to do both. Add an image, and maybe a YouTube video. So for hobbies, if I like to, hike or whatever it is, I could just search YouTube for a hike that I would like to do. So I'll say, I don't know, Mount Hood hike. And then you'll see all these different videos will come up from YouTube. Ordinarily, I'd click through, watch it, select the best one, but in this case, I'll just assume it's this one. I click select, and now there's going to be a video on my site of hikes around Mount Hood. Then I would do the same for books. What are my favorite books? Again, it could be a narrative, it could be a list. And then you just keep going. So in this case, book, right? What do I want to say about book? Maybe it's my favorite book. So I could say, my favorite book is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, or whatever your book happens to be. The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, right? And you could do that, or you could list it out. Any of it's fine. The point is students get to represent themselves, and they don't have to do the same things that I'm putting. So in this case, I'd want to make sure I get a picture or a video. So I click here, go to select image. In this case, I'm just going to find a picture of the book, right? So I would go to Google Images, and then I could search for Name of the Wind, right? Some photos are going to come up. There, I'll just select a picture of Patrick Rothfuss. And then there it is. We've got hiking. We've got the book that I like, and then I could do the same where I'm listing out maybe who's in my family or describing my family and adding a photo about them. Of course, we won't make students add, pictures that are, of themselves at this point. If they'd like to, they can certainly do so. But in the beginning, I just like to have them do things that represent themselves. And when they get more comfortable with it, they can always, of course, add these sorts of pictures that are showing their family or their videos. The great thing about Google Sites is that when you're starting to build them from a student account, it's usually protected behind your district's wall. So it's not going to be out in the open internet. It's going to be on the internet within your district. And even then, you would have to have a school account to be able to access it. You'd have to have the link to know where it is. So students, when they're adding content to this website, they're not going to be revealing information out on the open web. It's only people really who are invited who have a school account. And there is a way to change those settings, but we would never do that until students really understand about protecting their identity and are being very selective about sharing information with like a college or for an internship or something like that. But that's way down the road. In the beginning, we want it kind of locked down so that students aren't sharing their identity. So after they've added this sort of information, this is where we start getting. The next step is going to pages. And going over here, there are no pages. You can't see any at the top. There are no pages over here. So what pages are we adding? Well, if we click here, they're going to be adding whatever grade they're currently in. So we'll just pretend that they're going to be in 9th grade. You hit done. There is now a page for 9th grade. I'm then going to think about my classes as a student. So what are my classes? If you need to pull it up on the phone, if you need to pull out a sheet of paper that has their schedule, all of it's fine. The point is that they're listing out their classes, and it honestly doesn't matter if they're in order, and you can always change the order later. You just go through, and whatever their first period class, they would just put the title of the class. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just so the student knows what the class is. So they can list all of those out. I recommend putting, a name for the class and not the period. That way later on, if they forget in a subsequent year, they can just look and see English versus period 2. It's a lot easier to find what they're looking for. So again, the titles will actually help them find that. Science, right? All of the core classes, I recommend they also do this for other classes as well, electives, and anything else. If it's on the schedule, put it down, right? Even PE. I actually just worked with a PE teacher to make yoga videos where students created yoga warm-ups and made videos. So there's always a reason that teachers in any content area could be adding content or having students add content to their pages. So you'd build out the whole schedule, right? Typically, that's going to be anywhere from 6 to 8 classes, depending on the level, the building, and the schedule. But you'd build that out. And if you notice right here, these classes are going across the top, they're not underneath ninth grade. So I need to fix that. So how do I do that? All I do is I click and I drag. I click and I drag. Again, it doesn't matter if the classes are in order. You can always change that later. It's really easy to do. I would just click science if that was my first period, drag it to the top. If English is my first period, or I drag it to the top. Easy to fix. The point is that you're building out the schedule so it's under ninth grade. All the classes are here. Once that's done, I'll usually, in whatever class that I'm going into, to show students how to add content. So for example, in an English class, I will have them click on it, and then I'll have them think about changing the background of the header to match the class. So again, you'd go to images, you'd go to select, and then you'd want the student to think about what will represent an English class. So that could be something like a library, if you're looking for, books, right? If that's what they're thinking about, so you could add that. Could be something like a coffee shop. Whatever it is, any of that is fine as long as to the student it represents that particular class. Students writing, whatever it is, right? What's great about this is the student will be revealing often how they're thinking about the class. So if they like the writing side of English class more, they might put something that has to do with writing. If they like the reading part, right? You'll be able to tell a little bit. It's a clue to how a student engages with the class by what they put. But again, it doesn't actually matter. It's just a chance for the students to personalize the site. And you want them personalizing as much as possible, because the more they personalize, the more likely they're going to be to really identify this site as their own. Once they do that, I'll typically show them that when you go to insert at the top, there are all of these other options for you to add content to this page. And typically I'll show them this button right here where they're going to drive, and then I'll have them add something that they've done in their English class or whatever class, again, that it is that I'm going into. That could be a paper, a Google Doc, it could be a slide deck, anything they have in their drive, it'll be in there. They'd click on it and then it would pop up here. Next thing that I usually have students do is I have them go up to the top right here where it says share with others. This is how you invite people to edit your site. It is not how you invite people to view your published site. This is if basically like teachers, this is who you'd want students inviting. You'd want them to look at their roster of teachers and then click here, and they would start entering their teachers' email addresses right here for that current year, and inviting them to be able to edit the site. Why? That way a teacher could help a student if they're struggling. If there's anybody who's, like a technology coordinator at your building, you might want them included as well. Maybe administrators even. You just want people who can access this to help students when they need help. Once students have gone through and added their teachers for the current year, the next thing that I'll usually show them is how to publish their site. So unlike perhaps Google Docs or slides, when you're editing a site, you have to edit it and then you have to hit publish to make it go live. At this point, the site is not live. It's not on the internet in my school district. So you have to hit publish. And then the very first time, but not subsequent times, you have to give it the rest of the web address. So your district, if you're doing this on the school account, it'll have something like this, and then you just have to give it a title. The easiest thing to do is to put your name first and last. And if that doesn't work because there's somebody else in your district with your name, right, add on maybe the graduation year or something like that. And that way you have a completely custom URL that you can share with other people to access your site. So now this is technically live, right? And in order to check that, I can go up to the top and I can click on the preview button right here. And then I'll see what my site looks like for that current page. Of course, I'm going to click around. I'm going to go to home and say, oh, what does this look like? Does it look like how I want it to? Is it complete? Oh, no, in this case, I forgot to finish my family section. I'd want to add some content to that. I could even add more and more information about myself on this home page. If I go to ninth grade, I can see all of my classes listed here. If anything's missing, I could just go right here and I can click back into the editing platform. Additionally, if you click this icon, you can see what your website will look like on a phone, a tablet, and then of course on a computer. Once I want to edit, I go back into the editing platform by clicking the X, and here I go where I can click to any of my pages, add content, or add more pages. Just to show you how this works, in subsequent years, after the first year, a teacher in the next grade or even a student could do this. You just type 10th grade, if that shows up underneath ninth grade, that's not a problem. I'm just going to pull it up to the top, make sure that ninth grade is first. And then I've got ninth grade, I've got 10th grade, and then I do the same thing where I'm just adding my classes. I actually don't want students to set this all up right from the start. So say a ninth grader adding all of their classes for each year, it's a little overwhelming to do that. So typically I'll just have students do that one single year that they're in, and then make sure that they've added their classes. But then you just go 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Each year they're adding to it. Or if you're starting in sixth grade, it's 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. And then all of their classes are there. There's a lot more that you can do to customize what the site looks like, so you can explore that under themes. There are some custom options that you can do, but I typically just find it's easiest for students to click on one of these, and you can click back and forth between them and be like, oh, what makes my site look the best, right? So you're like, oh, this one, whatever it is. You can change the color if you want. You can change the font here if you'd like as well to a couple different fonts, just to get the personalized feel of your site. Again, you've got to hit published once you make some of those decisions, and then publish again, and then it will be again live. So there it is. And if I want to check what it looks like, once again, I just click on the preview button, and I can see what my published site looks like. At this point, this represents pretty much typically what I show students the very first time that I take them through a website. Again, it usually takes about a 50-minute period, one singular period, to do this with students, where you're pausing at the different steps in the process and giving them time to work and supporting them on completing some of this. The only other thing that I show them at this point is just how to share this with somebody, because again, this is where you share to be able to edit your site. So a lot of students, when they want to share their site so that other people can view it, say their parents, a family member, a guardian, a friend, they'll go up to the top and they'll copy this and send it to somebody. It doesn't work when you do that. This is inviting people, if you copy this link, to edit your site, but it won't work unless you've actually already been given permission, your email address, to edit the site. It's not what you share. In order to share the website, whatever page you're on, so if I click to home and then I click this icon right here, copy publish site link, this is the link that I would share through email, text, whatever, and I'd send it to someone else so that they could access the published version of this site. That's what they would need to be able to do that. And in the way it's currently set up, they would have to have an account that's a account for my school district to be able to access that site. If students wanted to be able to also send that link to their parents or guardians, they would need to go up here and they would need to give their parents or guardians permission to access it, because currently it's hidden it's only visible to people who are on who have a school account, and I don't want to change that. I want to keep that hidden for now. All right, thank you. That is the basics of how you set up a student website. There's a lot more that you can do, and look for some of the other videos to learn more about that. So some of the other things, right? You might be adding more pages like About Me sections and college and career information. And then there are going to be other videos as well about how you can hide information, how you can share this with different people, and then just what you can even do on the different pages for the different classes as well. All right, thank you.